So I want to start with why I started this podcast. And for those that know me and been following me for quite some time, you guys know my backstory, but there might be new listeners and you might not know the background, or you might have been hearing bits and pieces of the whole story from the get-go. So the whole purpose of this episode is to talk about why I started this podcast, but even bigger, the mission behind Budget Dog, the brand. So I'm going to get into that today. I'm going to walk through those details and kind of show you where I started, how I got to where I'm at today, and how I can help and serve you. Because the main agenda behind this entire brand is to help and serve. And that was how I was as a little kid. That's what I was taught growing up from my amazing parents. They really taught me the focus in this life is to help and serve other people, but you have to have yourself right and strong in a very strong position first to be able to do that at a a big, grandiose level. And so I've always focused on making sure I was good so that I could help other people and that's not a selfish thing. And I think a lot of people, especially parents out there, and I'm a parent of two little girls, is they believe that they have to help and serve everybody else and they forget about themselves. And in fact, that actually hurts the other people because you're not helping yourself. The stronger you are, the more you can give of yourself. And I think that's an important concept and an important kind of concept that wraps up into the Budget Dog brand. So I'm going to give you a little background of where I'm at today, and I'm going to go backwards of where I started. So I'm now a 33-year-old financially free individual. I'm a married man of two little girls, Logan and Ellie. I'm married to a beautiful wife. Her name is Erin, and I talk about my family quite a bit. And that wasn't where we started. The financial freedom that we've gotten to and the financial freedom we've reached is something that was, some sort of it was a dream. It wasn't even, I don't even know if it was a dream at one point because I didn't even understand that you could be financially free. I didn't even know what financial freedom was at one point in my life, to give you perspective. And I'm sitting here today speaking as a professional expert, as a CPA, as a national bestseller, and as a professional that's been doing this for over 13 years. But that's not how it started. And I think a lot of people are sitting there and they don't realize their potential. And something I always do when I help and serve people is not only help people with money, but I help them see their potential. I help them see the roadmap to financial freedom. My national bestseller, which I'm going to pull out right here, is entitled, for that good reason, The Roadmap to Financial Freedom, A Millionaire's Guide to Building Automated Wealth. This title did not just randomly appear. This title was kind of the story of everything that's happened in the past. And for anyone that is looking to get this is on Amazon, this is on at Walmart, this is at Target, this is at Books A Million, this is pretty much anywhere you can look at online. And so if you do want that, you can go in the show notes below, obviously, and get it. 100% of proceeds are donated to this little girl's foundation called Gervais Syndrome. That's my little daughter. It's a picture of my family on the back, and 100% of proceeds are dedicated towards that. And that's in line with the bigger mission, is that we're not here to make an extra buck. We're not here just to, make money. That's not the purpose of this organization. That's not the purpose of this brand. And I lean into that exact reason why we started this, and I haven't lost focus of why we're here. And I think that's really important. So I'm going to give you guys, I just gave you some details about the family of as we are currently today, but I want to take it a step back. I want to share, I'll kind of speed it up a little bit into where I was as a teenager when I first started my real first job. I worked at Skyline Chili in Crescent Springs, Kentucky, on Buttermilk Pike, exit 186, for anyone that does know that area. And that was my first job. And I was in high school. I was playing 3 sports. I was in basketball. I was in football. I was in baseball. I was doing a lot. I was very active with community service at that point in time. Putting 40 hours a year in is one of the big, awards we always would get in high school, and I'd always make sure that was a focus. So I was doing a lot. And when I was making that money, I didn't really know what to do with it because I never grew up in a household, that talked about money. My family gave me a great education. They put food on my table and they provided a great life for me. And I would never, ever, I look at myself as kind of a trust fund baby in a sense, without actually getting any money. I didn't receive any money, but I was born in America. I was given a ton of opportunity and I was able to capitalize and build upon that. And I think that's always important. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. And so everybody's starting point is going to be different, but it's important that you improve upon what you were given. And so at 16 years old, I was 15 years old. I started my first job at Skyline Chili, buttermilk pike, and I was making, what I would say minimum wage, but for me, good money because I was a high schooler. I was 15 years old. I couldn't even drive. My mom would drop me off at work. And this money I was making was a paper check. And what I would do is I would get that paper check every 2 weeks, and I would go across the street to PNC Bank and I would put it in my checking account. And that's what I did. And I did this for quite some time. So throughout my high school years, I was working at Skyline. I worked at McDonald's, flipping the fries. I worked at Oriental Walk. All of this is on Buttermilk Pike. And I did a lot of jobs, odd jobs as well. I worked at a pool for a little bit. I did construction. I worked as a mason with my father-in-law because he has a masonry company. And I did a lot my whole life. And I always would work. I'd always play sports. I was always very active, but I never knew what to do with it. And in college, I remember specifically, I was sitting there with my buddies and I said, we were talking about money and finance and stuff. And this is kind of when I started getting interested in it. And I remember having $10,000 to my name, but it was all my checking account. And I thought I was a baller, and I was way ahead of all my friends around me. They were like, $300 in my account, but I wasn't investing it. And so there was really nothing I was doing that was productive with that money I had. And I held myself back so much. And I wish I would have had me now in my life then. And so when I am out there, talking with companies, the employees, we do a lot of presentations to colleges, to companies. They bring me on to speak with their employees, do different events. One of the things I always think about is the young professionals that are just starting. Now, obviously, we talk to 20-year-olds all the way up to 60-year-olds, and we focus in on paying off debt. We focus in on investing. We focus in on, living the best life that you possibly can from a financial perspective. But I always like the younger individuals that are just starting their career, because those people have such potential because of the timeline that they have. And time is the biggest wealth building factor. And I want to provide as much detail and as much value as I can to people when I talk to them. And if I can do that of substance and provide, what I wish I would have known, I know it's going to change the generation, behind me by billions of dollars, literally at mass scale. And so I know I had the potential to get my message out there and build it. And that's why this podcast is here. So as I got into, my professional career, I graduated U of L, Louisville, University of Louisville, L1C4 in 2014, December 2014. We just graduated. I was working at Deloitte, and I was starting at in the Cincinnati office, September 2015. And I was making $50,000 out of college, and I knew nothing about money. But I came across 3 Deloitte mentors that really got under my wing. I took them, they took me under their wing, and man, it changed my whole life. I have a podcast specifically if you guys want to listen to more detail on my 3 Deloitte mentors. But these Deloitte mentors were coming from a place that I never talked about. Like, they talked about money, and that was like a very taboo subject around my household. Like, nobody really knew about it, so we didn't really talk about it. And so this was all new to me. And they were talking about their investment allocations and where they're putting their assets and how they're building real wealth. And I remember specifically going to my first year busy season party in about April, May time. Probably May, because April we were kind of finishing and wrapping up. And I remember we went to Bob Bitter's house in Fort Wright, Kentucky. He had a imported Porsche. He had a imported China, imported furniture. And the fact that he said imported blew my mind, because that's not how I grew up. I didn't have China. I had dishes that broke. We came from a very, I'd say, middle class, suburban American family that you could think of, Midwest. So when he was saying imported China, man, that was so far over my head. that wasn't the stuff I talked about. And he was talking about Roth IRAs. Never heard of that, really. Didn't really know about index funds. And granted, I was 22 years old when I first started. And so this was all new to me, but I was actually making real money, $50,000. And one thing he made me do was start my 401k. And I was defaulted into it, but I didn't really understand it. And I remember specifically seeing my first paycheck, and I looked at it as a loss. And that was so representative of where my mindset was at that point in time. So I looked at it as a loss. I lost, quote unquote, $115, a 6% contribution on my $50,000 salary every bi-weekly period, which turned out to be $115 per pay period. And I literally looked at that as I was losing money, while the reality of that was I was saving for my future and my retirement, and I was saving on taxes. And the fact that my mindset was there was so backwards, but that's to kind of show you where I started. Like, I didn't grow up with this education. The school systems didn't teach me. My parents didn't teach me. But I say that because I know a lot of people will relate to that. And I also realize that it will give people the courage to start this process and the courage to get to where I'm at, because you can. Like, everything I talk about, I'm so confident with, because I figured this out myself, and I've helped thousands of other people do this. As I'm speaking today, we have multiple thousands of people in Budget Dog Academy, my main service, where I help you build out the financial roadmap we talk about and simplify your life and take the stress away from your financial life and let you live the life, a purposeful life that you should and you deserve to live. And that's what I'm all about. And that's what this brand's all about. And so when I started that process, I realized I had $304,000 of debt. Part of that, $228,000 of that was my mortgage. My wife and I, at the time I was proposing to her, but we got married. We moved in at 24 years old. We were pretty young in today's world as a married couple, but we had $304,000 of debt. And as a CPA in my Deloitte background, I looked at my balance sheet and I said, that doesn't look right to me. Why are we in this position? We started off this whole entire journey at a negative $8,000 net worth. Lots of debt, just didn't make a whole lot of sense. And very quickly, I realized I want to pay off that debt. My wife wanted to pay off that debt, and we were going to pay off that debt. And that was the start of our real financial journey of locking in and really figuring this whole entire financial thing out, because paying off debt's one part of it. But that was the catalyst to everything else. And so, I didn't think when I was first doing this that Budget Dog was going to be a thing. The fact that the name is Budget Dog, I'll get to that in a second. But it was just kind of, it transpired out, and it was very organic. It was very raw and real. And I hold on to that exactly today. I'm very authentic. I just share the reality of what's going on. I'm a real person doing real things, and sharing that everybody else out there that wants to do things like me can do it. I'm a big believer in taking the ownership and extreme ownership, that is, of your own situation, and that external forces cannot control you, presidents, economy, things of that nature. I'm a big believer that you will control and dictate your own life. And I've learned that through the Deloitte days onto today, which has been about 11 years since that process. Because I've lived life, and I've lived a lot of life. And in fact, some of the things I'm going to share with you have been so crazy that, I would never have looked back and said, yeah, that's going to be something that happens to me. And it's taught me so much, and it's allowed me to take this brand to another level. And exactly why this podcast started was, it wasn't just because of numbers on a spreadsheet. It was because of everything else that is required to build wealth, which is values, which is character, which are traits and qualities of a successful person. And being a good value-driven person, I think, will be much more beneficial than any technical tip I can give you when it comes to finance. So when I set out to build this podcast, I had the YouTubes, I had the Instagram, I had the Twitter, I had Facebook, I had TikTok, where I was talking about the financial how-to, the technical steps. But what I didn't have was, and I ingrained a lot of what I talk about in here into my general content, but I didn't have all of the other stuff. And so that's the purpose of this podcast. I really want to get down to the details of how do we really build wealth? Like, yeah, sure, you build you set up a Roth IRA, and sure, you invest in a taxable brokerage, and sure, you have amortization schedules for all of your debts and all the technical stuff. But how did I really become successful? How did I really build the wealth? How do all my students really build real wealth? And it starts with your mindset. And it starts with all the values and character, traits that you have that get you to the point that you should be at and everybody deserves to be at. But it takes a lot of intentional hard work. And nothing that is, nothing's going to come easy. So everything worthwhile out there is going to take intentional hard work, whether you like it or not. And I know there's, in our today's society, we have so much information at our fingertips, and we see so many big wins online that things can get blurry, that things do take a long time still, and good things take a lot of hard work. And that's exactly the what I want to model this podcast after, and share the story of how I got to where I got. And so when I started building the wealth we did, we started paying off debt. Around 27 years old, we started sharing this online. I remember specifically I was taking a hiatus, let's call it a 2-week hiatus from work. I had PTO at Deloitte, and I was looking to make extra money that week. And I went to my construction job. I was demoing a church. I was making extra money. And my wife stopped me that morning before she left for work herself. And she said, "Why don't you start an Instagram account?" I'm like, "An Instagram account? What do you mean Instagram?" Like, I think I posted 12 Instagram posts my whole life in like 12 years. I don't like social media. And man, women have an intuition. And without my wife, I would not be where I'm at today. But she knew my talent with an online presence, with my personality, with who I was, what I'm intending to do, my intentionality behind this whole entire process was like the best way I could possibly lead the life I want to live. She knew that. I didn't. And her awareness of, she's very in tune with, she would always joke, like, you would never work for somebody. You're going to teach a lot of people, like, all this financial freedom stuff. And she really wanted me to just like recognize my potential. And we were in a place of strength because we were, securing our finances. We focused very heavily on fitness, on faith, all that kind of stuff leading up to this family. And she knew that was my next step. And so literally, this is how the name came about. She was like, she's like, "Well, what should your name be?" I'm like, "I don't know, Brennan, my name, my real name." She's like, No. Let's think about this." So she's like, "What about like finances and like pets?" And we had dogs at the time, 2 dogs. And my big shepherd mix, we don't know if he's a collie mix. We don't know if he's a Rhodesian Ridgeback mix. He's but he's very shepherd, predominant. And he comes up, his name's Nico, and he looks at me, and I go, "Budget dog." And it literally just clicked like that, because I was thinking finance, and I was thinking of all these like finance dog or finance whatever, and then pets, and it just clicked. It was like, oh, that was such a catchy name. And so I just started the Instagram account that day. I then went to the demo site, the church I was demoing that day, and continued to work. And I posted my first post on the doorsteps of that church. And I told all my guys that were working with me, my little brother's friends, I said, "Go like my post, go share my post. Like, this is going to be awesome." And I had nothing. My logo was a side profile picture of my dog, Nico. And it was just a very raw experience and very real experience. And I was just sharing about our debt payoff. And I think I said, I don't even remember what my first post was. It was something about like the 3 main steps to get started. And I slowly and steadily started posting more and more to where people really liked what we had to say. I was still a dog on social media. I was still just on Instagram as well. I didn't have a YouTube. I didn't have a face to the brand. And so people weren't probably taking me too serious, but they did realize the information I was sharing was really, really good. And people were interested in paying off debt and investing and maximizing their cash and building financial freedom. And like, I knew all the sauce. Like, that was what I was good at. Social media, I always joke, like, social media chose me. I did not choose social media. But very quickly, people were like, "Who are you? Like, share your face, show your face." And so I got on IG Live, and my IG Live went bonkers, like bonkers. And I was so nervous because it was like the first time on camera, and I wasn't used to presenting at that level. And now I'm presenting in front of like thousands of people. But at the time, it was just like a little IG Live. I was so nervous, but people loved it, and I did. I crushed the IG Live. I always like to joke about. Right after that, I put my professional headshot as my logo. The brand took off. And to this day, we have grown this brand to over 1 million followers collectively. And we've done so many tremendous things. But it was because I was sharing from a real, authentic place about our story, sharing our debt payoff, sharing our house payoff, becoming debt free at 28 years old, quitting my 9 to 5, my wife quitting her 9 to 5, my daughter being born into this world. 5 months after I quit my 9 to 5, she was diagnosed with what's called Dravet syndrome, which is why this book is dedicated to her, my national bestseller. And man, a lot came at us very quickly. And so throughout this entire time, we were working day and night. Like before our daughter was born, my wife and I were working up till 3 a.m., building the brand, building services, building products that people really were asking us for. Like we didn't go into this world, or this, like, let's call it entrepreneur world, thinking we were even entrepreneurs or even this was a business. We just were sharing our information, and people liked it, and people told me what they wanted. So I was listening to them, and I was like, hey, I would love to help and serve you. And I was doing free stuff all over the place. And this took off. This was crazy, the demand we had, to the point I could not keep up. So I had to start putting prices on things. And what I've noticed is that when you put prices on things, people pay attention more. People that pay attention. It's just the reality of the way we live. And so I started putting prices on things, and people would still pay. And I would bring my prices up more because I was providing so much value. And I had thousands of hours under my belt. I had so much expertise. I knew exactly how to master someone's finances. And I just continued to do that at a high level for a long time, where I'm still doing this today. And we've developed, and we've transitioned the business model to more of the academy, which is what most people know today, or my national bestseller. Budget Dog Academy is a 6-month roadmap, but a lifetime service that you're with us forever, and you're building your finances forever, and you're learning the long, real way to build quality wealth that sticks with you forever. And you're eliminating the stress, and you're seeing the path, you're seeing the roadmap. And when I was building and doing all this myself, I knew we could get ourselves out of debt. I knew we could build a lot of wealth. I knew we were on pace to do that. And we became millionaires before we even left our W-2s. But what I realized was I can help other people. And back to when I was a little kid, like I grew up always looking to help other people. And I was always looking for ways to, provide extra value to somebody. It was something that I was just in me. It was innate, like I said. And so I saw the clear roadmap for everybody. Like it was so obvious to me. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I, you know, I didn't grow up with this information, but once I knew it, I was so locked in with it, because I was like, man, this helped us, but also my friends and family that I just would like share my resources with and be like, hey, do this, this, and that. We're getting crazy results, paying off tons of debt, investing tons of money. A few of my friends became millionaires along with my guidance. And I was like, oh my gosh, like we have something so special. Not only is it me and being raw and real, but it's also getting like crazy results, like results I did not expect when I first started. I'll be honest, to this day, like I was just reading some results or some wins in my academy. I didn't expect when I started this to get the wins that we're getting. Like somebody just increased their net worth 340,000 in 15 months. Like it was amazing. And like you see all this stuff online of like get rich quick stuff, and like this is not get rich quick. It's like get rich the right way and the slow way. But I still see these massive wins. I'm like 340,000 in 15 months. Like that's faster than I was doing. But the thing is, I've locked this process in so well because I've done it for 13 years and I had the 10,000 hours of experience. So all of the experience that I put in over the last decade or so has transpired to crazy student results. But it's also real, raw, authentic, and fundamental. As a CPA, I focus on the fundamentals very well. They call me the Tim Duncan of finance for anyone that watches the NBA. And man, I just love this. I eat it up every single day. I love serving. I love helping. I love seeing the results. No amount of money is ever going to sway me. I get so many different offers. I've gotten 6-figure offers to push a specific brand or a specific product. I'm like, no way. Like, this is not who I am. Like, I will never trade out for those dollars. And you're always going to get the real, authentic me. And that's who I am. That's what this podcast is about. That's what this brand's about. But what we're doing is so special. And I think a lot of it comes down to not only doing it and having the experience and helping other people close to me, but also doing it over and over and over and over with thousands of people, like I mentioned. and it's easier than people make it out to be. And when I realized that, it was like an opportunity. I've always looked for opportunity in my life. When I grew up, I was like, man, this is so much easier than people make it out to be. When I realized that, it was like opportunity time. This is what I need to lean into. If I know this is so easy, why can't I just help everybody do this? This is amazing. Like, this is like, why is this not talked about? Why is this not in the schools? And I just leaned into the opportunity, and I've created one of the best products. My financial advisor friends say I'm 10 years ahead of the industry of the product and service that I provide, because it's just not out there. Budget Dog Academy, there is nothing like it. There's nothing like the community we have, the one-on-one guidance we have, the specificity that we have for your unique situation, the speed in which we operate with the fundamentals at the same time. There's nothing like it. It's so efficient. And again, it just comes from real life experience. But when I started this process online, what I did see a lot of times was people getting taken advantage of as well. And I speak out against that quite a bit, because my people mean everything to me. They're my family. And so when I see people online pushing IULs and pushing these whole life products and pushing all these, like, this day trader narrative and crypto meme coins, like, it sickens me, because I see so many people that really want to do well get just taken advantage of and crushed, and their dreams are crushed. And once they, fall victim to that, let's call it a scam in a sense, their hopes and dreams are crushed. And I hate to see that. And when I started putting out my product and service and started talking about finance, I just realized how common this stuff was. And so I speak up against it, because I feel like there's a mission I have. There's a purpose I have at this point in time. Like I said, I like to help and serve people. My main focus is letting other people come to the realization of the potential they have to live a purposeful and meaningful life. Money is not everything. Like, money's important to an extent. Like, it's very interesting take I have on this, because I think a lot of people think that because I talk about money and finance, like, that's my main focus. And while it's a vehicle to get you to where you need to get, it's not really my focus. Like, I always say, it's bigger than math. It's not always about a spreadsheet, because I paid off my house early with a low interest debt, but it made sense for my family and I, and it was the best decision I've ever made. And it still is, 6 years later. But a lot of people think it's just spreadsheet math, is like, you just do that, or you just do this. This is like the technical how-to. It's just so much bigger, because what I'm trying to show people, and I don't even know if I'm communicating this well enough, but I'm trying to show people that this is a vehicle. This is a step-by-step process to get to the life that you deserve, which has nothing to do with money. In fact, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the financial side of things is on very low side of things. On the hierarchy of needs, you need to find your mission. You need to find your vision, your purpose. Why are you here? What are you trying to accomplish? If we're constantly on a floating, earth with land and water, and we're paying our bills, like, there's no purpose to that. And I'm trying to get people past that initial almost survival mode where I used to be. And I think the best businesses are those businesses that start because the founder has a problem himself or herself, and they have found a solution to that problem, and they know who they're helping because it's their former self. And most 99.9% of my clients and students are those that were in the position I was at 23. They just weren't sure. They weren't educated. They didn't have the information. They didn't have the tactics. They didn't understand everything that went into the financial well-being and financial freedom. And so I know this so well because I'm helping my former self. I see myself in all my students. And it's so encouraging because I know I can get them over the hump. But with that comes a lot of coaching, a lot of psychology side of things. And that's what this podcast is about. It's not just like the technical how-tos. I don't talk about that much I'm not going to talk about the pro rata rule or investing in a Roth IRA or portfolio allocation on this podcast typically. Here and there I might sprinkle it in, but typically it's not going to be the case. It's going to be everything else that goes into this. You'll see the podcast episodes I lay out every single week. It's, the 8 traits of success or 8 habits of success. The things that had me overcome so much, to the last 3 years, I think there was a special talent I was given from God to teach others, to lead others, and I think that was something that I was just a talent I need to recognize, I need to realize, I need to put out there in the world. My wife realized it. My wife very quickly said, "That's what you need to do," and I didn't quite see my own potential. And when I strengthened my position internally and I worked on myself internally, I realized how many more people I could help. And over the last 3 years in particular, I've been challenged to a great extent, but at the same time, I look at everything as a positive. So the last 3 years, I'll do the short end of it is I quit my 9 to 5 to go full time. We paid off all of our debt at that point in time. My daughter was diagnosed with Dravet syndrome, which is a 1 in 16,000 rare epilepsy disease. My wife quit her 9 to 5. We moved across the country to Texas. We moved into a house that had a major mold and mycotoxin problem. We came to find out later that impacted my daughter greatly, and to the point where we were out of pocket $300,000 for the house. And this 2 months ago, we just moved into the house I'm sitting in today. And throughout that whole entire journey, which I could just share detail after detail of getting punched in the face, it was such an opportunity to give me more perspective of where other people are coming from in different scenarios. Like, the special needs community was not something I ever woke up and said I'll be part of one day, but I was blessed with an opportunity to have perspective on that. The mold, I wouldn't say the mold community, but understanding the devastating impacts of mold and mycotoxins, especially with a special needs daughter that has issues with neurology, Dravet syndrome, epilepsy, and mycotoxins or neurotoxins. And the impact that had on her gut and brain was, it's crazy. But it wasn't like I woke up one day and was like, yeah, I'm going to face that. And this is all while building financial freedom. This is all while building the brand and everything that went into this, all the late nights and early mornings and all the struggles. And to this day where I still struggle many times, but I'm still financially free. And you have to realize when you're on this path to financial freedom, it's so much bigger than just money. And it's so much bigger than just financial freedom. Like, we're walking a spiritual journey. We're walking through the fire. We're walking through a lot. The things we've experienced as a family the last just 3 years alone, I can't put it into words really, but it's things I don't wish upon anybody, to say the least. And it's a very lonely place. And the fact that we've been able to do the things and accomplish the things we've been able to do and get my daughter the support she needs during this time, I think speaks to the traits that we have and the traits that have gotten us here. But also, my wife and I have refined those skills and traits with this crazy experience. And so for those out there struggling with anything, like anything, it could be a spouse issue, it could be abuse thing, it could be it could be anything, childhood trauma of any sort. Just realize that is an opportunity, at least in my eyes, this is my opinion, because this is my podcast. That is an opportunity that God is giving you to have perspective to help other people in that same exact situation. And you have the opportunity to overcome that, strengthen yourself internally to be able to give back, help and serve other people. And maybe you create a great big business idea out of it because you struggled yourself. Like, my family struggled with debt in the beginning. We created a business out of this to help and serve. And maybe it comes from a great place. And there are so many people in this world that want to cling to victim status and cling to woe is me, but that's not going to get you anywhere. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're going to be in for a rude awakening because that's not the mentality I operate with at all. Like, you're not going to hear woe is me in any podcast episode. You're not going to hear that in my content. You're not going to hear, I'll tell you very raw, transparently what's happened in our situation. I'll show you the depths of which these struggles have gone. Not everybody, just because they grow up in middle class, has no struggles. Like, whatever socioeconomic class you're in does not define your life. There's people that make billions of dollars that go through some of the most traumatic experiences. And I think a lot of times this world and the media portrays like money is equal to an easy life. And what I'm going to teach you is that while we're building financial freedom, while we're getting to big financial heights, your life is so much bigger than that. And there's so much more that comes into that picture to really create the life that you want to live and create a fulfilling, purposeful life. And money is like one of those steps to get you there. And so as you listen to this podcast, I'm just thrilled that you're here, and I'm thrilled that what I can do and how I can serve you guys is going to really change your life from a mentality standpoint and thinking about it differently. And I want people to start investing in their health, investing in their education, investing in themselves in so many different ways, and stop living in scarcity. Stop living feeling like you're never having enough. Because the second you change that, the second you lean into the principles I teach and the stuff that I talk about on a daily basis, your life is going to be so wealthy, you won't even know what to do with yourself. You're going to be such a different person after listening to this podcast and after listening to this every single week and soaking your time into learning and educating and hearing somebody that's been through it. I was in $304,000 a debt. I did have a negative net worth. I didn't grow up with financial education. I was diagnosed, my daughter was diagnosed with a 1 in 16,000 rare syndrome, which, as any parent out there knows, is a very lonely place to be. Nobody knows the answer. You have to figure it out yourself. We are not victims. We have the opportunity to overcome anything that's thrown our way. And I want to share this with you each and every week because I know how powerful this can get. And you know what? As I film this today, I can almost guarantee this podcast will transform into something great. The content, not only in the podcast, but my overall Budget Dog content will transform with time. And I think we all will build together. And the more community that we build together, the better off all of us will be. And so all my financial communities, my Budget Dog Academy community, all my Instagram, all my Twitter, like the more we can come together, the more we can talk about these bigger level things that impact our lives, the better off we're all going to be. And that's what I want to build. I want to build a community of people that are going through struggle, that can talk about it, that can be transparent about it, that don't feel like they're going to get taken advantage of if they share their details. And that's what we built in Budget Dog Academy already. And I want to build something massive to where we can transform the way we operate day to day. And that's why this podcast was created. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I really do. And I if you guys ever need anything, come to my Instagram, come to my Twitter, send me an email, whatever the case is, and connect with me. I mean, I'm just a human, guys. I'm just another person just like you. And I've been able to do a lot of cool things, and I look up to other people as well, that other mentors that are able to do other cool things. And I want to bring us all together, and I want to make something special because we have such a short time in this world. And the impact that we can leave, which is one of my big things, impact over income, is so important to me. And I think that the brighter minds that can get in the room and have good, deep, raw, intelligent, non-biased conversations and non-extremist conversations, I think the better we are going to be as a whole, as humanity. And I think my clarity of my communication on that vision will even develop with time. So I hope you guys will be a major part of this community, really lean into what we have to talk about here, and connect with me. Don't be afraid. Again, I'm human, guys. So with that being said, guys, enjoy the podcast, lean into the principles and values I teach, and let's all get wealthy together.
You've been listening to Money on My Mind with your host, Brennan Schlagbaum. If you found value in today's discussion, share it with someone who could benefit from it too. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, so you never miss a money mastery tip. Until next time, stay passionate about your financial journey and keep taking bold steps towards your money goals.